So I've got to ask, where do you sit on what unfolded on Saturday night at the SCG around Victor Radley?
Oh, look, I like the intent. Yeah, I like the intent, but the rules in the... I can't get this argument where people hit people high and people go, yeah, it was just an accident. It's in the rules. You're not allowed to do it. The crackdown has made everybody aware of the rules, but you haven't been allowed to do high tackles since 1908, Ben.
But there has been a tightened policing of the rules.
Of course there has, and it was necessary. It's necessary. Victor Radley, and I love the way he plays, but he's just got to lower it by about 3 inches and he's as good as gold. That's all he's got to do.
Let's remember the reason this happened is because after that Parramatta game where Dylan Brown put the knees into the back of Drew Hutchison and Tedesco got clobbered with another high tackle, Volandy said enough is enough. They had to do it because I was sitting here that week blowing up that nothing was done on the field and blah, blah, blah. Volandy has acted in the players' best interest. Radley went out there last week, like people saying that he can't continue to be the player he can. He can. He's just got to have a little bit more discipline. On the weekend, he'd gone over that emotional level.
Yeah. I love watching him play, Crawls. He's one of my favourite players. He lost the plot. Yeah. He fair income lost the plot. He had Jake Friend, right, who's one of his great mates. It was an emotional farewell. There was the tunnel out. The red mist glazes over. And Victor, he let the redhead take over. And he did. He got it wrong. Like, he should have been sent off. It's a miracle. Fancy being on report 4 times and going to the sin bin twice. He should have got sent at some stage. He'd lost it.
All the talk about the game going soft, there's nothing in the new directive that says you can't tackle someone as hard as you want to tackle them. You're still allowed to do it. You're just not allowed to hit them across the chin.
The issue becomes when a game is played at this speed and you're out by a couple of centimetres and... Ben, in high-intensity clashes, it's all good and well. I was watching the Roosters, the Rabbitohs-Panthers clash on the weekend, which was down in intensity. Everything looked very safe. Now, I don't know if you know, but this was the second highest rating game on Fox Sports of all time. And part of me thinks was the appeal that Victor Radley and the way he approached the game brought to the contest for fans.
I think it's because Brisbane finally got a win. So Brisbane actually turned the TVs on for once.
But it was unreal to watch. Yeah. But if you're the Roosters, mate, and he's lost the plot, as Hoop said, well, it doesn't do your team much good, does it? Like, you've got to play with a little bit more common sense.
Because the game, when it's played at its highest levels of intensity, these are the things that go wrong. Because you said there's nothing to say that you can't load up and hit a bloke as hard as you want to hit him. But when you're in that mindset, in a brutal collision sport like rugby league, it's hard to execute exactly the way you want.
But Ben, what we have done over time is we have become conditioned to tackles going high. To the point, as I said, where people now go, it was an accident, what did he get penalised for?
But see,
there's nowhere in the rules that says an accident is okay. We've conditioned ourselves to think it's okay. It's not okay. It's never been okay.
I don't think anyone thinks it's not.
But that's the argument that the people are making now.
I just think by the time you start to put players in the bin for accidents, it starts to affect the product. And once it starts to compromise the product, that's what it's hard to taste.
This is incumbent upon the players to buy in. Yeah, I had someone tell me about fans walking out the other night saying, oh, this is not rugby league, I hate it. If it continues this way, who's going to pay the ultimate price here? It'll be the players.
Which is your beef of the week, Paul Crawley. You're seeing some reaction from the players that you're not at all happy about.
Well, on one hand, we've got the Players Association and the players all saying that this crackdown is tearing at the fabric of the game. And, rugby league's a collision sport and we should be entitled to occasionally, accidents happen and you just got to wear it. But then, on the other hand, you've got players who are going out there now and they've been doing it for a while and they're intentionally milking penalties. You had Nelson Asafa Solomona do it the other night. You had Jared Wallace do it with Dylan Napa in that game. And so what do they want? Do they want to milk a penalty or do they want to play this tough collision sport and there's occasional accidents? Because the NRL is bringing this crackdown in for their welfare, for their benefit, Why can't they buy in and say, okay, well, if there's a light tap, we'll leave it to the officials, and if they determine that it deserves a penalty or a sin bin or a send-off or whatever, no worries, that's the rules, but they're not buying into
Particularly with replays.
And they're whinging about
replays. This is where, I would love the RLPA to come out and say, get the players, get their delegates and say, listen guys, let's just finish this season off. Right, we get down, get all the gamesmanship and all the rest about milk and penalties. But given where the game is at, given the furor that's going on at the moment, for all the blow-ups about the legitimate high tackles that do hurt and do make you stay down, we don't need to add to it by pretending to be hurt and staying down. That's what they've got to fix. And they should be sitting there, and there should be and this is impossible, but there should be a gentleman's agreement in the game where they say, you know what, for the rest of this year, we are going to...
I know, but you're right. It's like when Brandon was sitting here. Are you serious? But if there's not, don't whinge.
Yeah, that's the other... shut up.
It's very altruistic from you.
Oh, you know me, Ben, I like to be a thinker.
Oh, I know. How do you feel? What you saw there? You know, watching live, what were your thoughts almost immediately, James Graham?
Yeah, I saw a lot of confusion. Victor, obviously, you can see by his reaction that he doesn't believe he should be sent to the sin bin. So you can obviously see some confusion. You can see some frustration. The shot that he put on Xavier Coates, he actually uses the wrong shoulder, and that comes generally through frustration. Like he actually endangers himself on Xavier Coates. I mean, Tavita Bahanga Jr., I think Kevin Walters before the game had really put a challenge to his forwards. They stood up, they came after Sam Walker. Victor Radley's trying to make a difference, trying to protect his half, but doing it in a way that is obviously punishable, but that he was clearly confused out there.
Quick 2 questions. Have you ever been in the same emotional state that Victor was in?
Yeah.
And is it hard to regulate exactly how well you execute in defence?
Yes, it is, but I would point out that this isn't the only incident where we saw players over the weekend be confused with a resulting penalty and or sin bin.
Jimmy, why is it so confusing?
Because you've got... So, on the Central Coast, you had Jazz Tavunga make contact with the head twice, and the referee gave him 2 warnings. Didn't get sin bin. The Warriors actually took him off. Then with the St George played Cronulla. Paul Vaughan, you've made contact with the head. You've got to go. So there's obviously players don't know what's going on.
Why do
Fans
players,
don't want. Commentators don't know what's going on. It's confusing.
The rules are you hit a player in the head, you get sin binned. Why do players default then to, well, Joe Tavunga didn't get sin binned, so now that I've whacked you in the head, I shouldn't get sin binned. Right? Why do they default that way rather than say, I know I'm not allowed to hit you in the head?
Yeah, I get your point, and you shouldn't be. But I think that this has been poorly communicated to the playing group. You know, we've had Volandis come in and talk about implementing change. You need to communicate that change. You need to get buy-in. I'm sorry, but an email to the player managers to pass on these new punishments, in my opinion, isn't good enough. So they sent that on a Thursday. The following 2 days later, the incident at Bankwest happened with the Roosters and Parramatta. The following Thursday, they get the same email, the team managers. The whole NRL was in Brisbane. Sit the players down and get buy-in from the players.
Hang on. Where in the real world, if my boss has an issue with me, I don't get a private audience where he calls me in and tells me. He tells his next down in the chain of command, who tells the next down until it gets to me.
No, but if you're getting significant change...
That's everybody in the working world.
It's not. If your boss came to you and said, just emailed you saying you're in on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, do you not think...
Doesn't email them,
But do you don't think the players
club was in full. Why couldn't the coaches call the players in and say, "Listen, guys,
because
I've got this email from the NRL. But he's the gaffer. He's the boss."
Get any behavioural psychologist to come into the show and talk about change in behaviour, and sending an email.
They're professional athletes.
I know what we wear
to play under a rule system.
I know, but if you get significant change in the punishment of the players and how the game is refereed, They deserve. In my opinion, they deserve better. They need sit them down in a room. Sit them down in a room. Explain to them why we're doing this change. Here's the benefits
for their own welfare.
Exactly. Well, explain it to them. Say we're doing this for these reasons for you. We're also doing it about the perception of the game.
Why?
All they've done as well is change the optics of the punishment. We've said this last week. Increase the punishments.
Why can't the coach who gets the email from the NRL, gets the explanation from the NRL, why can't he change behaviour? These players have now had 3 weeks now, is it, or 2 weeks now?
Well, they sent an email, Paul, and then they didn't implement the change. So then they resent.
But they clearly have. But they clearly have now.
The first week they didn't.
They clearly have now, and by 16 games later, after 2 weeks of it, we're still getting high shots.
And we'll probably see it again.
Does that show you how difficult it might be to actually change the behaviour?
Well, I get that, but I also get they are professional athletes.
Yeah,
but they are supposed to be the elite.
We trained the whole pre-season learning how two people tackle up the top and the third one comes into the legs, right? So behaviours are not built overnight. You can't change them overnight. It takes 21 days to learn a new behaviour, 42 for that to become autonomous. So for players, like I understand it, we need to tackle lower, that's fine, but it's not that easy to change. And you're saying we want to protect the players, but the hard thing is, as players, we've already negotiated with ourselves that we're willing to accept.
I get that. I totally get that.
So
but the other thing is too, Victor Radley only needed to change the target zone by about that much.
I know, absolutely.
That's all he needed to change it by. You look at Hiroti over the weekend. For whatever reason, when he's chasing down Cody Ramsey, decides to go over the ball.
Yeah, now, that's what they're
when
taught.
He's holding the ball, but look, he's got all that body to hit, and he goes over the ball and clips him on the chin.
I'm not disputing the fact that it's a head-high tackle.
Because for a decade they've been taught to go over the ball.
Stop the offload.
I'm not disputing that, but I think
the offload, but the hand wasn't even on the ball. It was over the ball.
I know that's one incident, and each individual should be judged on its merits and as an individual incident. But I think if you want to implement change, the players deserve better communication.
But okay, all right, I grant you that in the beginning. But clearly now, after 2 rounds, 16 games, 24 charges the weekend just gone, clearly they should be able to get the message.
No, they will get the message, but is it contact with the head or is it forceful contact with the head? Because I'm hearing 2 things from referees. It appears the referees don't know what the difference is and what's 10 minutes and what's not,
well,
and what's on report or a penalty.
I'll concede you that, but I also, it's regardless of what's on report, what's not. The fact is you're not allowed to hit anyone in the head.
Never have been. You never have been, but they've changed the optics of the punishment by showing the 10-minute sign, so it looks better to the viewers. So the viewers see the punishment, not later on in the week when no one really knows about it.
So a few weeks back when Trent Robinson came out and said there needs to be punishments within the game rather than the review system, because the team that gets offended against, which in his case was Hutchison when he got taken out of the game, the fact is that the game responded to that. That's where the game was pushing to go. The game responded to that. Now we don't like that.